And now, you're tuned in to RBLR, the home of Tampa Bay's RBLR Sports.
Ladies and gentlemen, football fanatics, and diehard Buccaneers supporters, welcome to the hottest podcast gathering in town. You are tuned in to RBLR Bucs, the ultimate Tampa Bay Buccaneers podcast that'll have you saying, "Ahoy, mateys," to victory. Well, not always, but hey, we'll talk about that later. But that's right, folks. We are 3 thrilling weeks into the NFL season, and your Buccaneers are sailing through the season at the moment right now, 2-1. It may have not been the prettiest of, losses against the Eagles, but as they say, the storms make the seas calmer. And boy, are we ready to weather the challenges ahead. And speaking of challenges, our next game is one that's sure to get your heart racing. It's the showdown of the epic proportions as we take on our arch nemesis, the Saints. So that being said, you better get those game day snacks ready, your lucky jersey. But as of right now, join us as we dive into the Buccaneers world like we've never before. Stay tuned for some of that insightful analysis, some passionate debates, and some of that RBLR magic that'll make the cannons fire. You feel me? But before we dive deep into the Buccaneers game plan and the juicy matchup against the Saints, I want to give a warm welcome to the rest of my team, my co-hosts, the Buccaneers aficionados themselves. To my right, he is your go-to guru for all things Buccaneers offense. Ladies and gentlemen, he is back ready to talk some of that NFC rival smack, and his name is Zach. What's going on, Zach? How we doing?
Oh, dropping bars, Musab. Yes. Man, I'm doing great. I'm happy to be back. I was sad to miss last week because I kind of wanted to talk some crap to Carter's friends, but you know what? Looking back on it now, probably a good thing I wasn't there because I would have been wrong. So, at the end of the day, there's no proof of anything that I said in our private chats about how Tampa was going to win. And, so here we are. I'm technically 3-0 because I said so.
Hey, no worry about that, man. Yeah, we'll keep those chats confidential for sure. But hey, to my left, he's got the lowdown on our ironclad defense, ready to smash through any opposition. The final piece of this podcast, Three Musketeers group. Folks, we got Carter in the house. Carter, the mic is yours. But beforehand, talk to me, man. How you feeling right now?
Oh, I'm feeling great. Living lavish. Just another day, another dollar. Definitely excited for this weekend. It's a big time matchup anytime the Bucs and the Saints play each other. So that's going to be a lot of fun. I'm really excited to see that game and excited to talk some Bucs football. Unfortunately, this week we're not coming to y'all with great news. The Bucs unfortunately fell to the Philadelphia Eagles this past Monday, 25-11. It was a bit uglier than the score might suggest. There wasn't really any time. I'll certainly get to y'all's opinions as well, but there wasn't really any time during this game where I felt like the Bucs were really in it. And I know that's kind of a besmirching way to describe a game, kind of a tough thing to say, but unfortunately that's reality. They didn't run the ball well at all. They had a couple of turnovers. They forced a couple of turnovers too, but the Bucs were just, they just looked like the less talented team out there. And that's unfortunately what was the case. So they didn't, like I said, they didn't run the ball well. They didn't take care of football, and the Eagles kind of just ran roughshod right through them. All their best players played like their best players. AJ Brown dominated. DeAndre Swift was really good. And Jalen Hurts was pretty good as well. It's unfortunate, but that's how it be sometimes. And just got to keep it moving, keep it pushing. So what are y'all's initial thoughts on this game? Is there anything that you saw that is concerning moving forward? Maybe something that the Bucs need to work on, or maybe you're just kind of like, let's just flush this game. It was against a really amazing team, and that's just how the cookie crumbles sometimes. Zach, we'll start with you. Is there anything that moving forward you're looking for the Bucs?
Yeah, I mean, I said it in the TikTok that went up today. This is, in my opinion, a case of a very good team. I mean, the Eagles were the Super Bowl runner-ups last year. Like, they're no slouch. So this is a case of a really good team coming together and playing when it matters the most. When you're playing another undefeated team, you got to be at the best you can be. And I think that one of the teams that played last Sunday played the best they could be, and one team didn't. One team had some miscues that just weren't football or weren't winning football plays, So I think the biggest thing that concerns me is Rachaad White has had one good game all season.
Yeah, I mean,
I know we're 3 weeks in, and we can't blame it all on him because the offensive line is kind of garbage too, but he's not making any plays. There's running backs that are on garbage teams that look better than Rachaad White does. So
yeah, I mean, it's sorry.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say it's tough because, like, in my mind, it's just Eric Dickerson could be back there, and he wouldn't run for 100 yards. I mean, it just
he might not run for 100 yards, but I bet you he has more than 2.7 yards a carry.
Does he? I don't know.
I would be willing to bet, dude. I would be willing to bet if Tampa were to bring in. Well, I mean, Kareem Hunt's already gone, so that was kind of my go-to. But you tell me if Tampa were to come out and trade for Jonathan Taylor, that he wouldn't be able to put up more than 2.7 yards a carry?
Yes, that is what I'm telling you.
You are insane. I love you with all my heart, Carter, but you are insane.
All right, agree to disagree. The Bucs offensive line looked atrocious, and the Eagles defensive line is the best in football, maybe one of the best ever. So
agreed 100%.
For sure, it's hard to imagine that
defensive line is not that good.
Yeah, I don't know. It's tough. Musab, how about you? You got to chime in here. What do you think? Is there any concerns moving forward? Maybe you're a bit in the middle when it comes to the Rachaad White thing. How are you feeling?
Well, first, yeah, I mean, we just got absolute bullied out there. I mean, but as Zach mentioned, I mean, this is the Eagles we're talking about, and let's not forget that the last 2 wins we've had. I mean, the last 2 games against the Bears and the Vikings, they're horrible. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's kind of like you're like that SEC team going through these random little FCS teams, just knocking them out, and then boom, now you finally got to pay Bama. You know what I'm saying? Now you're getting your butt whooped. But, honestly, to kind of summarize it all, we were looking bad on both ends. Sure, we looked good here and there. Obviously, it's not like it was a completely embarrassing game. But, I mean, hey, I also want to give credit to the Eagles. I mean, they're looking real hot right now. They're looking super dominant. I think they've warmed up already. And, yeah, we got a lot to work on. Now, piggybacking off of Zach's comments about Rachaad White, I want to say that I think it's a whole team effort. I think, what I will say, Zach, is I was expecting some things from him, I guess. But I also want to put a lot of it on the offensive line. I mean, they were just looking horrible. What's a running back and a quarterback without a steady or a solid offensive line?
Yeah, and I don't think you're wrong in that statement. Like, I'm not saying the offensive line doesn't have something to do with it. I guess my biggest thing is he wasn't able to make any plays. Like, he fumbled the ball, didn't he?
Yeah.
He was the one that fumbled it.
One of that, yeah.
So the biggest gain he got all day, he fumbled the ball and turned the ball over. So it's just, to me, it's like he's not making the best of the opportunities he's given. I know that he's not going to run for 8 yards a carry. Like, our offensive line, it's hard for him to get back to the line without getting hit because of our offensive line, but he's not making anybody miss. I guess that's my biggest thing is when we see other guys. I watched a play, I don't remember who it was, but it was another running back, got hit twice in the backfield, made 3 people miss still, and got a first down. Like, I'm not asking for these miracle plays, but I need to see him make at least 1 or 2 people miss, and he's just not doing that for me.
No, I agree with you, man. If he's, if we're going to be at least somewhat okay or whatever, we're going to have to improve the run game for sure. And that comes from White and Tucker. It's just, I mean, I think I need a little bit more time, guys, just because, we went against the Vikings and the Bears, and it's not like Rachaad White really balled out on those games either, now that I think of it.
Well, I mean, he did solid against the Bears.
Yeah.
He had a good game against the Bears.
Yeah. So, for me, I think, we just got to wait it out a little bit. For me, we got to wait it out a little bit for, at least for me, to kind of solidify my own statements about Rachaad White, just because we went from like horrible teams to, possibly a Super Bowl or actually a Super Bowl contender for sure. I mean, I got them in the Super Bowl this year. So I don't know. I guess we'll have to see what he does against the Saints.
Yeah, and I hate to say it, but the Saints haven't allowed 20 points in a game for a long time. I mean, I think they've got a 12-game streak, so it might not get much better this weekend.
Yeah, but they're also not scoring 20 points. So.
Oh, for sure. I'm not trying to.
Yeah,
We'll get into
no, I
it.
see what you're saying, though.
That's the second half of the episode. For sure. But in the context of this game, does this change how your perception of the Bucs are as a team? Do you think that, like, moving forward, like, is your, are you thinking of the Bucs more in a negative light, or maybe you're just kind of like, this is who the Bucs are. They're a decent team in the NFC, but they're definitely not an elite team. That was kind of my thinking going into this game, and that's my thinking coming out of this game. It's like the Bucs played a really, really good team, one of the best teams in the NFL, and the Bucs just aren't that. So they're not going to really be able to beat most of the good teams, the 49ers, the Eagles, the Bills, Kansas City. They're going to struggle with those types of teams. Thankfully, they don't have to play Kansas City, but those other two teams they do. So I don't know. For me, it wasn't really a perception-altering game. It was kind of like, yeah, the Eagles are really good. The Bucs are kind of above average at best. So I don't know. For me, it wasn't really a perception-altering game. But Musab, we'll start with you. Maybe you kind of came out of this really disappointed. Maybe you were like, oh man, I expected them to at least put up kind of a fight, but they really didn't. What was your perception like before and after this game?
I think, we just have a lot of kind of small issues, or actually not even small issues. The two big things I'm looking at is our offensive line, and then just the kind of, DB and consistency. The fact that we got Carlton Davis, who was out, and then Jamel Dean is now banged up. Shout out to D. Delaney for that interception, but I mean, nothing came out of it, of course. And then, we saw other guys, Carter, like Derek Pitts,
right,
who I didn't really know much about at all. But, at least what made me feel kind of somewhat good was if Mike Evans had caught that touchdown catch, I think it was in the first quarter where he dropped it. I feel like it would have been a little bit of a different ball game. I feel like our first half, yes, it was kind of ugly, but at least we were still kind of in it, So at least for me right now, we play crappy teams, and now we just play the Eagles. I think I need a little bit more time, but I think this was more of a kind of humbling experience. This was a real test for us, and unfortunately we failed.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, it's definitely a humbling experience, to say the least, kind of a come back to earth moment. Shout out to Mac Miller, EA. We're, I know the Bucs are 2-0, but they're still the Bucs, and it's time to ease up a little bit. So I think it was definitely a come back to earth moment. Zach, how about you? Maybe you're a little bit more disappointed, or because you had the Bucs winning this game. So
yeah, I did. Well, again, no proof. But
I think it's an Instagram post.
Yeah, but I didn't say it, so anyone could.
Right. For sure.
No, but my thing is this like perspective altering? I don't think so. It does kind of make me a little bit higher on Tampa. And that's because we played this game without our two starting corners. We held Philadelphia to 25 points. Granted, this is not Philadelphia from last year. I don't think they're as good as they were last year. I think their defense is just as good. I don't think their offense is as good. But looking at it in that aspect, we put up 11 points. Should have been at least 18 points because Mike Evans dropped a wide open touchdown, hit him right in the hands. And then I think that would have shifted the momentum of the game a little bit. And then Baker Mayfield rolling right, hit Mike Evans for a first down right on the sidelines. Perfect throw. And he dropped it again. Just basically swatted the ball down, it looked like. And it's just, those are two plays that could have shifted momentum that had we just completed those two plays, I think this game could have gone differently. No guarantees, obviously. I don't know if it would have. Philadelphia, again, is a great team. I'm not hating on Philadelphia. But I think that momentum is a big thing in sports, and I think that that's what killed us is just costly errors like that.
For sure. Yeah, I mean, it's hard to come back from the rough first half that the Bucs had. It's hard to pick up, if your foot's not on the accelerator, it's hard to put it back on. And it's tough. It's unfortunate, but that's how it kind of played out. And are you a Baker fan, Zach? I can't tell from those comments.
Listen, I am a Baker fan, but I'm a realistic Baker fan.
No,
he didn't have a great game. Like, I'm not trying to say he played a great game.
No, I get you. I just
interception of the season. It was not a good game by Baker, but
for sure.
he should have had 2 touchdowns and should have had at least 15 more yards on that throw. That's all I'm saying.
Right. I don't know. When I watched the game, I wasn't all on Mike Evans. I wasn't all on Baker. It seemed like the throw could have been a little better, and obviously Mike Evans is the type of elite receiver that should catch those balls as well.
But now I will say, I feel like Evans, throughout his career, and this is something that my dad pointed out to me, which is weird because he's a Tampa fan because I'm a Tampa fan. Like we are from there, but he's a New England fan. But he points out that Mike Evans will have one really good game like he did last week, and his next game he'll come back and it's just pedestrian. And then he'll be good for a few more weeks, and then he'll have a pedestrian game. So it's always like I tell you what, dude, during that game, I think I was like, let's just cut Mike Evans. Like, I know I would never really, I was overreacting. I was in a bad mood from the loss, but I was like, I'm done with Evans. I don't want him anymore.
Dang, Baker Mayfield does some crazy things to you, huh?
He does, man. And our offensive line. I think it's more on our offensive line for me.
Yeah, no, for sure. It doesn't matter who's taking snaps if they have 2 seconds or less than 2
exactly.
seconds available. But anyways, moving on, it's kind of another broader perspective kind of thing. Shifting our focus to the Eagles. I know, Musab, you mentioned that they're Super Bowl favorites, and they're Super Bowl favorites in my mind as well. Zach, are they Super Bowl favorites in your mind? Like, I don't know that in my mind they're the best team in the NFC, but I see you shaking your head. What's up? Who's the best team in the NFC then? Is my follow-up question.
Look, I don't know who the best team in the NFC. It probably is the Eagles because the NFC is not that strong this year.
Garbage. Horrible.
So, like, realistically, could they make it to the Super Bowl? I could very easily see that. Well, wait. Why am I having a whole brain fart right now? I'm like, right now I can only name NFC South teams off the top of my head.
San Fran is the only other.
I was going to say, I think realistically, San Fran beats Philadelphia.
Wow. Okay,
I think San Francisco is a far better team. Like, not far better. That's exaggerated. Not far better. I spoke and then realized as I was speaking that was stupid.
Right.
But Philadelphia has looked really good in parts and not really good in other parts. Like, throughout the season. I'm not saying, like, offense and defense. Like, it's on everything. Their offense is not clicking like it should be.
Right.
Like, A.J. Brown's having games with 130 yards, but Jalen Hurts is throwing 1 touchdown and it's not to him. So, like, it's like in those games where I see that and he's like, why are they not clicking like they should with another thing, in my opinion, one of the best offensive lines in the game.
For sure.
And it's just something's not right there. So I think in order for them to be Super Bowl contenders, in my opinion, they're gonna have to connect more on offense.
For sure. Here's the thing, though. All of this being said, they're 3-0. You know, like they have a new OC, they have a new offensive coordinator in there. They have 2 new coordinators on both sides of the ball.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think they're going to get it together. Musab, I know you mentioned earlier that the Eagles are your Super Bowl favorites. Are you sticking by that? Like, they're definitely coming out of the NFC, or maybe you're kind of coming around on the 49ers now that Zach mentioned it. How are you feeling about it?
I mean, yeah, that's their only real competition, if anything. But the way I see it, the Eagles have been getting better and better. You know, they've been kind of just improving every single game. I think they're, really clicking as every game goes on. A.J. Brown wasn't getting too much action before, and now they're feeding him.
For sure.
And they're just, I don't know. I mean, they did just play the Buccaneers. So the way I see, I mean, they bullied us. And the way I see it is, I think they're just going to be a dominant force against any other opponent they face. So I am looking forward to their other matchups. I know they are playing the Dolphins in a couple of weeks or so. So I'm curious to see how that goes.
Really fun.
But for me right now, yeah, I'm staying with them as, Super Bowl contenders, at least on the NFC side for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's important to note that Hurts apparently had flu-like symptoms Monday night. So that wasn't even – oh, word? All right. Well, regardless, he still lit up the Bucs for a little bit, and then DeAndre Swift was going ham too. So
my biggest thing is we're talking about, like, how Tampa has played bad teams or mediocre to bad teams. Like, well, technically, I guess they're both bad. I mean, Philadelphia's record is not much better as far as people they've played. They won 25-20 against New England, who New England looks not good either.
Right, and they beat Minnesota.
And they beat Minnesota 34-28. Minnesota put up 28 points on them.
Yeah, it's a good point.
I think that we might be giving a little too much credit to the Eagles at this point. If they go 6-0, 7-0, then I'll start reconsidering my Super Bowl contender opinion.
For sure. Well, we'll just have to see. That's definitely going to be a very interesting thing to look at moving forward. You know what else is interesting though is that RBLR has a really cool store where you can find some really nice gear. Talking about the Bucs, the Rays, the Lightning, the Rowdies. If you're trying to get some fresh wear, just something to pull up to. The Rays are about to enter postseason play. The Bucs are in the thick of things with the NFL season. Lightning season starting back up. The Rowdies are playing a game right now, so there's a lot going on in the Tampa Bay sports world. So definitely got to check that out and get some gear. Shop.rblrsports.com. We'll give you a promo code Cannon, CANNONS, because even though the Bucs lost this week, you can win right on the shop.rblrsports.com site and win you some fresh gear. So definitely check that out. So after that
was so solid, bro. That was so good.
Thank you. I was kind of cooking up that because the Bucs were 2-0, so I hadn't been able to pull that one out yet. So it was kind of fun to pull that one out.
I like it.
But anyways, we are moving on to the Saints game. But before we get into the Saints game, I want to talk about our snack of the week for the Saints game. Because I know mine, because I'm going to be in Mississippi this weekend. We're going to a Southern Mississippi Eagles game. My mom's an alumni there, so we're going up to the President's Club. It's going to be fun. While I'm in Mississippi, I'm definitely getting myself a po' boy because there's this amazing po' boy shop, and they're playing the Saints this weekend, so I felt like it was perfect timing. Worlds colliding, everything coming together, blah, blah, blah. So I'm po' boy is my snack of the week for the Saints game. I'm definitely going to get either a crab cake or a fried shrimp po' boy, one of the two, and it's going to be delicious. Musab, how about you? You've always got some fire food for the snack.
I'm telling you, man, I'm excited for this.
Yeah, I'm very excited.
Man, I mean, this ain't really anything kind of cultural, but I want to give a shout out to Costco for keeping the costs low as always.
Sure.
Not sponsored just yet. Yeah, you're read my mind, Zach. But man, they just got this. It's like cheese bread, but honestly, it tastes like a nice cheese pizza, but it's like a squared version. You know what I'm saying? And it's got a little bit of that garlic flavor as well. I don't know. I'm just going to throw that bad boy in the oven for, 15, 20 minutes or so and just chomp those down. Maybe a little bit of marinara sauce on the side. But I mean, yeah, that's what I'm doing. I had them last week and oh man, they were to die for. I immediately told my parents, I was like, yo, we got to run it back to Costco. Get me another box. You feel me? So that's my snack of the week.
Hell yeah. I love it. Zach, how about you? What's your snack of the week?
It's possibly even less creative than Musab's. So when I left Florida, there was one thing that I knew I was going to miss more than anything. And that is Publix.
I knew it was going to be a pub sub.
Now hear me out. Turns out, in the time I was gone from Tennessee to now, they built a Publix. And it happens to be 15 minutes from the house.
Okay.
So Michaela is currently going to get pub subs for dinner tonight.
Ooh.
And I am having probably pub subs again this weekend, baby.
All right.
What's your go-to Publix pub sub order, though?
Okay, see, now this is tricky because there's two. I get either an Italian with mustard cheese, or I started eating this new one. It's the chicken bacon ranch.
Ooh, that's a good
one. Dude. It's the chicken it's the chicken tenders, and dude, I'm telling you, you get a whole sub there, and one half of that sub fills you up.
Yeah, you ain't kidding.
They puts
you to sleep as well.
Yeah,
it is so much. So that's been my last two times tonight. Michaela asked what I wanted, and I was like, oh, I need the Italian. I want to eat the whole thing, and I don't feel like throwing up afterwards. So
right, yeah. Yeah, I used to be able to chow down on a whole chicky tendy sub back in college, but good gracious, now if I tried to eat more than a half, I think like you said, I'd be feeling miserable. But that'd be a good little nap inducer, like Musab said. I just chow down.
Yeah, you can eat it at halftime and fall asleep after the game for.
Yeah, Perfect.
Marvin's
I'm more of
looking
a
bad. You
chicken
can just sleep
tender.
during the second half.
Yeah, yeah, you ain't kidding. Yeah, that thing will knock you out faster than NyQuil. But yeah, I'm a big wrap guy. I've turned into a wrap person. I like the spinach wrap with chicken tenders in them. That's pretty fire. I don't know. I'm a big wrap guy now. Musab, how about you? What's your go-to pub sub order?
Oh man, I just keep it class. I just go buffalo chicken tender subs and I just throw everything on there. You know what I'm
Oh yeah,
saying? Might as well make my money worth it. But I am pretty sure Publix actually. I was there a couple of days ago. I think they have a Buccaneers like theme.
yeah,
So
a buck sub.
yeah, I forgot what it was, but
Not in Tennessee.
uh,
Oh well. Well, anyways, after that little diatribe about pub subs, I'm sure y'all were dying to hear our pub sub orders. We're gonna get into the Saints preview because the Saints are really in a weird spot. You know, they were up on the Packers going into the second half, and then they kind of collapsed. Derek Carr went down. He's questionable. I don't think he's gonna. The vibes I'm getting is that he's not playing this week, and we'll get into that too. But basically, it was a rough weekend for the NFC South in general, but especially for the Saints because that was a very winnable game that slipped through their fingers. And I don't know how you move forward with that, especially with Jameis Winston likely being under center. So, with that being said, Jameis is probably going to be their starter. How do you think the Bucs take advantage of the fact that Derek Carr is probably not going to be starting, and the offense looked pretty darn awful without Derek Carr? So, Zach, we'll start with you. How do the Bucs take advantage of Jameis Winston being under center as opposed to Carr?
I mean, I'll start with a question to you. Has the offense looked good with Carr under center?
That's a fair point. They're off. They suffer
Yeah.
the same problems as the Bucs. Their offensive line atrocious.
Yeah, it's so bad. Now, on the bright side, they don't have Alvin Kamara still. Like he still has, I think, one more game, or is this his game back?
I think he's coming back this
Was it
game.
a 3-game suspension? Okay. So I thought it was a 4-game. That's my fault. There's no way he's in playing shape right now. So we're getting an out of playing shape Alvin Kamara, which is still better than Rashad White, but irrelevant.
Fair.
I don't think the offense is good. I think that's going to be the easy part. Is our defense is kind of thriving right now. Like I said, really, I know Philadelphia scored 25, but realistically, they only scored 23 on our defense. So if we can hold a team like Philadelphia to 3 touchdowns, I know it wasn't actually 3, but 3 touchdowns on the scoreboard, we should be able to hold a Jameis Winston-led offense to no touchdowns. Like they're not a good team. Or they're not a good offensive team. Defensively is where they make their money. They are very good defensively, and in my opinion, the second best defensive team we've played all year. So I think this is a game that's we talked about perspective altering. I think this is a big one right here.
Absolutely. Yeah, if the Bucs can't pull this one out with Jameis under center for the Saints, that is going to be tough to see. Musab, how about you? How do the Bucs kind of take advantage of Winston being under center for the Saints?
Well, I mean, as Zach mentioned, there's nothing special about the Saints offense. So at least for me, the only thing I'm hoping is, unlike the Eagles game, I hope they don't kind of toy around with us with the kind of same kind of plays, because that's what the Eagles were doing, and we weren't doing anything, about it. But when it comes to the defense, Zach mentioned as well, obviously they've held their opponents to less than 20 points, and they're looking real hot. I mean, I think we'll be able to take them on. If anything, it's just, what I'm thinking more is our offensive line is going to have to gel together. Okay. Our offensive line, it's a young group. Only time will tell. At least for me, I'm just going to kind of be a little bit more patient at the moment right now. But once we're more on the back end of our schedule, then I think we'll have to start thinking about making some moves in the offseason. But for me, it's just hoping that, we kind of have some different strategies with what we want to do with our offensive line. I feel like, this kind of little 1v1 battle just wasn't working out for us, against the Eagles D line. And I'm hoping, we don't do the same because, the Saints D line is looking hot.
For sure. Yeah, and like you said, I mean, the Saints defense is really phenomenal and it was weird against the Eagles. They didn't really do a lot of boot actions, a lot of rollouts with Baker. And that seemed to
Mhm.
be kind of a lot of things they were doing in the first couple of weeks to try to alleviate some of the offensive line problems. So I'm hoping that's something they do moving forward. But for the Saints, offensively, like y'all mentioned, they're really not performing very well. They haven't been winning because of their offense. They've been winning in spite of it. So it's kind of tough.
Exactly.
Um,
Exactly.
so I think the Bucs bring a lot of pressure. I think that they force Jameis to make some quick decisions that he doesn't maybe want to make. You know how we all know firsthand as Tampa natives that Jameis can throw an interception or two with the best of them. That's his thing.
Or
So
30.
or 30, right? So if they're able to force Winston to make some quick decisions and maybe get the ball out of his hands a little quicker than maybe he'd like to, which with this offensive line seems like they can absolutely do that. I think that can lead to some big plays and big turnovers and big momentum swinging plays. So that would be huge. But in regards to shifting our focus back to the Bucs, what do y'all want to see from the Bucs as kind of a bounce back from this past week? I'll kind of kick things off with my own perspective. It's definitely I'd love to see him clean up the turnovers because turnover-free football means easy victories. I know that's so cliche. I know it's much easier said than done. But if they can just kind of limit the turnovers or at least win the turnover battle instead of equalizing it, then I think that they can come out of the Superdome with a victory. So that's my biggest thing is just taking care of the football a little better than they were Monday night. Musab, we'll start with you. How do you think that the Bucs kind of bounce back? What's one thing you're looking for them to improve on from this past week?
For me, I think just being a little less conservative, being a lot more aggressive on both ends. First, on the defense, I feel like we've seen it a couple times against the Bears, during the end of the game. And then just against the Eagles, I feel like we weren't really there at all, weren't making tackles. But, I mean, that's another issue. And as I mentioned already, with the kind of 1v1 battles, I think we're going to need to design some new plays that don't just rely heavily on our interior line. I think we should be using kind of just more, just kind of short passing and just kind of sub in for that running game, at least as of right now, if we're not seeing anything from Rachaad White or Sean Tucker. But I mean, that's where I stand right now. I think those are some kind of big keys for us to win this game.
Absolutely. I love that you're bringing up the interior offensive line and kind of helping them out because, yeah, Mauch and Hainsey have looked rough, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm.
I was expecting Luke Gadecki to be the weak link of the group, and he hasn't been that bad.
I think he's been the second
yeah,
best.
for sure. Yeah, that's not super out of left field, which is kind of surprising. And Mauch and Hainsey have not held up their end of the bargain. So it's been tough to see. And like you said, Musab, they definitely need to do something to help them out because there don't seem to be any reinforcements coming in. There doesn't seem to be any help coming in. There's no magical savior. They kind of got to run out with who they got. So, yeah, I'm definitely with you. They need to game plan and do something to kind of change things up. Zach, how about you? What are you looking for the Bucs to kind of improve on this upcoming week against the Saints?
So you touched on it. One of mine has got to be we need Baker moving more. He it's not that he's played bad standing in the pocket, but he's made his biggest plays and his most impactful plays
On the move.
He boots or when he just rolls out. I'm not asking for him to rush for 50 yards, but just get out of the pocket, bro. Like, get out of the pocket. Let your play develop. You're not going to be able to stand in the pocket and let a play develop with this offensive line. You're not. So I want to see us dial up more, I would say play action with a boot, but we can't run the ball, so everyone knows it's not going to be a run. And outside of just that, I think a big thing that I want to see more of is Sean Tucker at this point. Look, he's not been doing great either, but he's had 8 carries, I think is the most he's had in a game. Whereas Rachaad White's taken the bigger, obvious job. But I want to see more of him and see if we've got anything in him as far as potential to take over for Rachaad White. Because if we don't have anything in Sean Tucker in game time, then we need to address that in the future.
For sure. The only pushback I'll have on the Sean Tucker thing is that Yeah, he's at 1.5 yards a carry, and he's got 15 carries. I know that's not a huge sample size, and obviously, like we've been saying, the offensive line is atrocious. So that might not be that's not a commentary on Sean Tucker. It's more of just maybe the issue really isn't back there. It's more up front, So it is.
That's kind of why I say, like, in my mind, I want to see more of him, because if he can't do anything as well, I mean, he was undrafted, so it's like we can't necessarily just completely say, well, it's definitely the offensive line. Because I think you're right in the beginning of the show when you said it kind of is a two-way street. Like, they could both be doing better.
Of course.
The offensive line and the running back. So I guess I want to see if Sean Tucker can make that one guy miss that I was talking about in the beginning. If he can make that one guy miss and give me something explosive, then I already think that it's not really a far race between who should be running back one.
Yeah, and I think I do want to clarify with these comments, because I know we brought up the Jonathan Taylor thing. It's not saying Rachaad White and Jonathan Taylor are equal. It's just more saying that like Rachaad White isn't as good of a running back as Jonathan Taylor. This is not a Rachaad White defense team. This is just unfortunately, it just really doesn't matter who's back there. It's just
because Rachaad White might get 2.7 yards, but Jonathan Taylor's going to get 3.1. Like, it's not going to make those 45 yards aren't going to make a difference at the end of the day.
Yeah. So it's definitely a tough thing, but we'll see. And I know you mentioned the rollout, Zach, and trying to get Baker more on the move. But Musab, how do you think the Bucs kind of get Baker back in the groove? Because like we've been mentioning, Baker looked really, really good those first couple of weeks, and then week 3 he took a bit of a step back, which is certainly expected. No one's going to go out there and perform, like Dan Marino every freaking game. So no one can expect that from any quarterback. So it's not a criticism on him, but how do you think that Baker gets back into the groove of things against the Saints this weekend?
I mean, other than the kind of just the offensive line issue, what I like about Baker is he's a dog. You know what I'm saying? He's a tough guy. And for me, I think it was just more of a little bit of a mental battle as well going against the Eagles. The fact that you're being bullied by a Super Bowl contender kind of team. Nothing's really working out. And then, it's a bummer when, you're throwing passes to Mike Evans and he's dropping them as well. I do appreciate his mobility against the Eagles, even though it wasn't kind of super productive or successful in the long run during that game. But for me, I'm thinking is that I think he's just going to pick up right back up on it. I think, he's kind of got that fiery mentality, knowing that he's going against an NFC rival as well. I think he's going to put the team on his back. I think he's going to help us out big time for sure. It's only the matter of, just kind of, changing it up a little bit, moving around, of course, as he has in the past against the Vikings and the Bears, just looking for better opportunities if he can't get enough time in the pocket.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think, like you mentioned, I think the rising to the occasion kind of element of Baker Mayfield is certainly there, and I think he'll do that against the Saints. At least that's the hope, of course. And yeah, I mean, I would love to see him just kind of, this sounds awful, but I'd love to see him kind of just take a hit, just kind of get in the game and get fired up, because that seems to be when Baker's at his best. But at the same time, also kind of balance that with also, hey, keep your head about you, keep your wits about you, because he is also, I'm not saying he's Jameis level, but he is susceptible to the turnover himself. So, if he gets trying too hard, trying to play outside of himself instead of just sticking to what he knows he can do, that can also get him into trouble. So I don't know. It's a delicate balance to want Baker to want to see Baker get competitive, but also not, just get too ramped up and then it turns into kind of a, turnover. So I'd hate to see that for Baker and the Bucs in general. But moving on to the running game, I know we've discussed it ad nauseum, so we're going to finish out the episode with a couple of predictions. But before we get into the game predictions, I want to kind of get into this running game because it's been tough. Last week was brutal. Week 1 was bad. So I want to give y'all an over-under, and I want to hear if y'all think the Bucs hit it or if they don't. 75 rushing yards and 2.5 yards per carry. Do you think the Bucs go over either one of those stats, or do you think they hit under on both of them? Musab, we'll start with you. How are we feeling about the Bucs running game against the Saints?
Oof, this one's kind of tough. You know what? For me,
are we talking combined rushing yards?
I think he's asking combined, right?
Just team rushing yards. My apologies. I should have clarified.
Team rushing yards. Ooh, if we're going, now that I think about it, including Baker, I think I'm going to go the over. Yeah, I'm gonna go. Without Baker, I think it's definitely under. But with Baker, I think we're definitely hitting the over for sure.
All right. So over from Musab. How about the yards per carry? 2.5. Do you think that the Bucs hit that over, or do you think maybe they continue their inefficient run that they've kind of been on?
Honestly, I pray to God that we hit the over. Obviously, I mean, if it's under, then I honestly don't know what to say. If it's under, then fortunately, we have a nice bye week to reflect on these kind of things, and I don't know, maybe pick up someone on the road or something who can get us more yards per carry. I don't know, man.
For sure. And I hate to be so stingy with the yards per carry because that is a pretty low number.
It
But at the
is.
same time, it's the Bucs and the Saints defensive line's pretty darn good. They've got Demario Davis, Pete Warner. They've got a pretty darn good defense. So I don't know. I felt like
It's just kind of those things where you're like, ooh, it was ugly against the Eagles, and now you're just closing your eyes, saying, "Oh, please don't happen again."
Right. Right. Yeah. I mean, it's
One
brutal.
nightmare is
Yeah,
enough.
really tough. Yeah, for sure. So yeah, I'm gonna go under on 75 yards, and I'm afraid I'm gonna go under on 2.5 yards per carry as well. I think they get shut down in this game running the football again. But we'll see. We'll get into the game predictions. But Zach, how about you? What are you calling for these things?
You hit right in the spots where like I'm right in between. So I do think they get with team rushing. I do think we get over 75 yards. Not much more, but I do think we get over 75.
All right.
Now, the yards per carry is where it's tricky because I want to say under just because I know how they've been playing, but I do think that 2.7 is around like 2.7, 2.8
Right.
is
Yeah.
where it's going to be at. I don't think we're going to get more than 3. So as you said 3, I would have shot under quicker than anyone's ever shot under.
Yeah.
But 2.5, I do think we're going to go over that. I think it'll be about a 2 point between a 2.6 and a 2.8.
All right, fair enough. Well, you heard it here first. We got all the over and unders on the Bucs rushing yards for anybody interested.
I like that segment. We need to do that every week, something like that.
For sure.
Yeah.
I dig
over
that as
under,
well.
I dig that.
Yeah, I dig that as well. So now we'll get into the actual game predictions, just because that's how we finish out the episode every week, and it's the most fun. So I'll start it off. I think the Bucs are going to win this weekend. I know I've been kind of poo-pooing on them, but I just think that the Saints are an amazing defensive team. But I think they're like as good as the Saints are defensively. I think they're just as bad offensively. So I'm going 17-6 Bucs. I don't think the Saints score a touchdown. They look really bad offensively, and losing Derek Carr. I know Derek Carr wasn't playing super well, but I think that he was at least an adequate game manager. And Jameis is, I don't know. It's a very, very much a wild card with him, as it has always been throughout his career. So I don't know. I go 17-6 Bucs. I don't think that I don't think we see an explosive offensive performance from the Bucs, but I think they get just enough done to kind of take them over the hump. And 3-1 going into the bye week is fantastic. I know the Eagles game was rough, but 3-1, I mean, I think that's better than any of us expected from the Bucs. So I think that's very exciting. Musab, how about you? What's your score prediction and who you got winning?
I'm thinking something the same like you, Carter, but just a different score. At least I think that the Saints are going to rack up a couple field goals or something. As you mentioned already, Jameis Winston and the rest of the Saints overall are just a kind of a wild card. I think they might be able to rack up a touchdown. Nothing more than one, though. I think it's just going to be more of a battle for field goals back and forth or something. But I do think that in the end, we're going to close out successfully. I think we're going to be leading for most of the time. But for me, I'm going 2016. Bucs coming out with the W before the bye week.
All right, there you go. We got 2 people going 3 for 1, and I think Zach's going to go 3-1 too. But I want to hear it from the horse's mouth. Zach, what's your prediction for this week?
We're going 3-1, baby. We're going 3-1. I think that we are going to see an explosive game out of Tampa. I don't think that it's going to be explosive compared to other teams, but I think 27 points for Tampa is explosive.
Yeah.
So, I think our defense is going to shut down the Saints offense. I don't think, like we've all said, they're not a good offensive team. And I think our passing game is going to be able to kind of come alive a little bit. I'm really only worried about Lattimore with their corners. That's the only person I'm actually scared of. And we know from past experience he's going to be on Mike Evans the whole game, which I think gives Chris Godwin a chance. It gives Trey Palmer a chance. I think we're going to see some names that we're not used to seeing go big. I guess Chris Godwin we're used to seeing go big, but some of the not number one guys. So with Godwin being a 2, he's going to get big yards. I think Trey Palmer's going to get big yards. So I've got the final score being 27-10 Tampa.
Wow, 27 is a big number for the Bucs.
Yeah,
well,
exactly.
for any offense playing against this Saints team, because no one's broken 20 in a long time. So we'll definitely see. We'll see how it all plays out. I know we're all excited to watch this game this Sunday. It should be a good one. For anything else, it should be really, really fun. Some electrifying football for sure. But that's all we got here. We really appreciate y'all tuning in and giving us a listen. If you like what you heard, definitely hit that like and subscribe button. If you would also like to give us a follow on socials, it's at RBLR Sports. We're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. Your boy Zach's got a fire new TikTok on the Bucs. So definitely got to check that bad boy out. Thank y'all again for listening. And if you like what you heard, give us that follow or like and subscribe. And as always,
Go Bucs.
Thank you for tuning into this presentation by RBLR Sports. On your way out of the stadium, please remember to like and subscribe.